So,
Do you have a, I'm going to allow you to talk here.
oh, there he is.
There he is. Okay. Okay.
Great.
So now we will move to review and approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
Hey,
Are there,
I think the minute said that I was in attendance. I believe that's what it said, and I was not here.
you are not in attendance. Okay, so that needs to change. Anything else, Kevin? You usually find any?
Tina Clark Scott was not, I don't think she was in attendance either, was she?
He was.
I feel like she came in
She
and
came
left.
in.
Did she come in and, okay,
And if anybody, I've looked on the district website. I contacted John Thomas, John Simpson. I don't have a good email for her, and it's not listed yet in the district, on the district webpage. I don't think she's there officially until July. So hopefully I can find a good email for her for next month.
yeah, I did not see any other corrections besides what Angela just brought up.
Okay.
Hello, Pastor.
Hey, how is everyone?
Hello.
Hi, Reverend Hayes.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Yeah.
All
Second.
right.
Yeah.
So moved.
Moved, Katie seconded.
Okay. So now let's, Dale's going to share with
No,
us.
no, no, you need to take the vote on it.
I thought we did. Oh, all
No, just
all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Good. Job.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Keep me on my toes here. So, Chief Curtis, you have a presentation for us?
I do, and it'll be a short one. And I apologize. I was trying to get the details for the calls for service as well. And I wasn't aware that our CAD system couldn't automate what we were exactly what we were looking for. So I have the crime stats by COGIS area, and I also have the calls for service by district, but I don't have specifics. And I promise I will get those to you shortly. I was trying to wait to give you the most updated figures as possible, which ran me into trouble with trying to do some of the stuff manually. So that's what happened with that. But yeah, let me do the share screen here. Sorry, I'm having trouble finding the ones that I'm here. Are you able to see the COGIS map?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is the one that actually has the crime statistics on it. Excuse me. This is actually the county breaks each area into COGIS sectors. And as you can see, we have 9 sectors here in Webster. The northernmost part of the city is in 3170. And as you can see there, we had 652 criminal incidents, 1 homicide, a couple robberies, 2 rapes, some assaults, burglaries, etc. In the middle northern section, east section, we had 902 crimes. That's a little misleading in that everything that comes into the municipal court, as far as warrants and failure to appears, those kind of things, is in this sector. So it's inflated considerably. It's probably more, when you're looking at the crimes in the other sectors, it's probably closer to 600 or 700. And center east section, we had 341 crimes. In the southeast sector, we had 314. And in the southern easternmost sector, we had 254. In the westernmost sector, we had 435. And in the center west, we had 243. And in the northwest sector, we had 574. We actually patrol by districts though. Hopefully I can bring this next one up. Are you able to see the district map?
That's what was sent out
Yeah.
by Cindy.
This one right here.
Yes, this one right here was sent out. by
This is
Cindy.
the summary, the total calls for service. And again, I want to, and we'll get you details of calls for service. You won't want to get all of them because some of them are things like prisoner transports, prisoner release, administrative details, meals, those kind of things. But I'll get you the things where actually there's some incidents so you can get a flavor of what was actually occurring. In Area 1, the community-oriented policing section you see here up here in the northernmost section is part actually of Area 1. Whenever we had community-oriented policing officers are on duty, it'd be anywhere from 2 to 3. And in the summer, we had 1 or 2 more officers from the SROs to this area. They concentrate typically on this area. In the summer months, we have a lot of concerns from residents about transients in the park, about alcohol, and different kind of issues. So we want to make sure that we have extra coverage. Plus the COP officers are out on foot a lot more. When I get you the totals, you'll see a lot of foot patrols to get familiar with the residents and to take care of some of the issues that occur in the park. So you see that there was 300 plus incidents responded to by the COP officers. That's part of Area 1. So of the 22,331 in Area 1, 3,829 of those occurred in this smaller COP area. In Area 3, we had 20,883 incidents. Area 4, 17,429. And Area 2, 19,379. So as you can see, we do track the calls for service and the summaries. That's the reason the areas are there. We try and apportion it so that there's one officer in each area. There's a somewhat equal activity in each area. I'm not quite sure what you're wanting to do with the information, but like I said, I will very shortly get the details of the incidents on these calls for service, so you can actually see what kind of calls there are that we're answering. Does anyone have any questions about it?
Dale, are the population counts in each of these areas fairly similar?
They are probably close.
Okay,
Area 4 has Yorkshire and Lutheran services. So probably residential population there is I'm going to guess, and that's all it is. It's an educated guess, is less than in the other 3 areas. But otherwise, I would say probably it's fairly equal.
thank you.
Yeah, I was a little interested in the number of calls associated with communities that are close to the interstate. Especially recently with some of the crime on the motor vehicle thefts and things like that, that are.
I'll be able to get that to you for the areas. As far as breaking it down on the actual streets, there's over the 3-year period. If you want to shorten the period, I might be able to get it on a graph for you. But trying to do a scatter graph or trying to pinpoint these calls, for the last 3 years, there's well over 90,000 calls. And trying to put it on
Right.
a scatter map on a street, all you're going to see is big blobs. You won't really be able to see anything in detail.
Right, I get it, but I mean, it's actually fairly well dispersed. I mean,
I think it's good information. kind of shows that it is evenly spread out.
So of the 22,331, the 3829 is in that number. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
There was 18, close to 18,000 just in this area. here.
right.
And when I get, and again, I apologize. I tried really to get the information, and most of it's had to be manipulated manually, and I just was not able to get it together in time. But I think we get that, you'll also see that it's fairly well evenly distributed throughout the city.
Right.
That's interesting. It'd be something to look at from time to time. Chief Curtis, I think that's good for everyone to know. Publicize it a little bit more. Okay, any questions?
Thank you
Okay.
for putting this together, Dale.
Thanks, Dale.
No problem. Again, I apologize. I thought we'd be able to do it through our automated CAD. And the code just works that way, but unfortunately with our districts, so it's to pull it out and get the incidents per district by detail. It required some manual manipulation, and I didn't recognize that until this early this week, and it was difficult to put it all together. I should have it done this week. If not, certainly I'll get it to you by next week.
Okay, and now Katie and I do believe Kevin will talk to us a little bit about some information that the Alliance shared with a few of us. Katie and Kevin, do you want to share screen or just want to talk?
I was curious. I think I sent it out to the whole group. Did everybody get it at some point?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. I don't know. Has anybody had a chance to look at this?
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Okay. Haven't have.
Let me see. Let me see if I can find it on
I
mine.
think I can, let me see if I can pull it up for you so you can.
Yeah.
read. Okay, I think I got it. I apologize. Everything in my house is moving like molasses. Let's see. Hang on.
You're good.
Yeah, let's work.
There we go.
Okay,
Awesome.
I'll just scroll down as you need. I'll try to scroll down.
Katie, do you want to start or you want me
Well,
to?
sure. I mean, I can tell you, I mean, I think all of us kind of know the context, which is that the PCEB is up for reauthorization by City Council this fall. And so the Alliance for Interracial Dignity, who has been one of our community partners, who's probably been one of the most engaged with us, has made, you know, they've been you know, they've held our feet to the fire on a number of things, and they've made some recommendations for our reauthorization that would amend our like the wording of our ordinance, and it's across a number of areas. And I think like I could pick out, and I will, a few that stick out to me. Kevin, you may want to add to this, but like in general, big themes, this has to do with specifying the sort of the reason for our convening or being convened as a way that Webster Groves and our police and our community are engaged in like racial equity, and understanding that like that part of our job is to not just promote not just promote positive relations, but to like really listen and be part. I'll just use the language that they used. Hang on. Naming racial equity as a focus for our board. So rather than just, positive relationships with the community and the police, but also naming racial equity as a focus of our board. And that we address issues of racial equity with the belief that making progress in this critical area will open the door to ending other forms of oppression. So that's one big theme. And then the next, they go on to make a recommendation or make an acknowledgement that we are not a regulatory body, but that we might be empowered to review police-related incidents, data policy, and other reports to facilitate the board's ability to make recommendations and to work effectively with the police and the community. So those, I think, would be the two main themes. Something out of the letter that was included with sort of the rewording or the amendments that they provided. And this is something that I think is really smart, would be to create a critical incident plan. Like, we hope we will never have a critical incident in Webster Groves, but I do think that a critical incident plan would be really smart for us to be a part of. So anyway, those are my kind of broader thoughts. Kevin, what do you have?
Well, I went through line by line through the ordinance and the potential changes. And my overall take on it is there was a lot of good things in it. And there was a lot of things that I liked. There are some things that concern me. And here they are. And really it's more, I don't know if it's wordsmithing or if it's something that we need to look at as a board. So in section 4.12, under B, the board's purpose is to ensure. So any time that I see in ordinances and legislation in general, the word ensure, it brings it up to almost the level of setting policy and potentially legislation, which is not really, I don't think, something that maybe the board wants to be involved in. And that's kind of the difference between advising and using the word ensuring, because I mean, how are we going to accomplish that charge as a board? Can we really ensure that these items are, the police is accountable and all? I mean, unless we're setting policy, it's very difficult to do that. I think that we need to review policy and advise on it and then make recommendations. But I'm not sure that the word ensure, I think it's a little strong, in my opinion. So it moves us more to an oversight situation and a policymaking situation than what we are now.
Kevin, I tend to agree with what you're saying about the word ensure. I wonder if we need to back it up even more, which is, so what, I'm curious what the process is here. So if we were, let's say we were to review this as a board, and we were to say, okay, the Alliance has made some great recommendations. Here are some edits we're going to make. Now tell me if this is right. We would submit this to the city council to say, hey, we know that you're going to be looking at reauthorizing us. Here are some changes we want to make. And we've been, we've gotten great guidance from the community. As a result, here we are, here are some amendments, and we present this to city council. Is that how that would work?
I don't know, Mayor, you can chime in, but I would think that this meeting itself, being public record, that the council would review what our input is without actually making an official language recommendation to it, because that's really the city council's responsibility, and they have the authority to actually either take what we say and use it and modify it accordingly or not. That being said, let me go all the way through the document real quick, and then we can come back and look and maybe ask the mayor on advice as to what direction we should go after this. The second in C, the board's purpose shall be accomplished through facilitating collaboration, partnerships, and outreach between the board, the city's police department, the people who live, work, and play in Webster community, and by carrying out the duties assigned to the board by this article. I think that's great. I don't have any, I don't have anything about that. Board members in the membership, in section 2, board members shall have demonstrated commitment to racial equity based on their professional, civic, or personal experience, training, special interest, or exhibited abilities. How is the city council going to determine that?
Well, I would put that forward to our group right now.
our
Does
group,
that,
yes.
yeah, like,
Mhm.
is that, do you guys think that that's an important aspect of choosing someone new to be on the board?
I mean, I think it's a very important element. It's just, how is that going to be demonstrated? Is it through the interview process? Is it through the questioning?
Or maybe it's through our own professional growth. We make sure that we as a board continue to grow professionally regarding race, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay. And then,
Well, hold on, I'm sorry, but I would like to pause and hear, does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Mhm.
I think reading it, it implies that someone would be interviewed that already has some of this background. So that's what.
And
implies to
does
me.
that seem like, if you were choosing somebody to serve with us on the board, does that seem an very important part of it to you?
I think it would be important to at least
Okay.
have some people or have someone who's shown some type of interest in this area, or at least a willingness to grow in the area. But I think, someone that has some kind of background or training that is relevant.
Okay,
Or at least speaks to certain aspects of race, diversity, inclusion, because I don't think everybody is going to be somebody that, is running workshops and discussion groups, and that's not everybody's thing, but there are people who are woke and, or just understand those issues. I guess it would really play out in the kind of questions that we ask. We need to ask questions in the interviewing process to.
Wait. Well, wait a minute.
Both those.
The interviewing process and appointment process is done by the city council.
Okay.
So, and if you're building a long-lasting ordinance, think about this 5 years down the road. All you can do is make recommendations about who the city council appoints to a position. And so you might say that you should give consideration to these members. And I think Cindy's approach about making sure that the board itself does this kind of training is probably a way in which that can be done, rather than imposing on a city council what they need to do before they appoint someone to the board.
so I guess the word there, when I look at these kinds of things, I look at particular keywords. One word I've already mentioned is ensure. The other word is shall. That's also a very strong word that leaves very little room for any kind of interpretation. But the second half of this, I totally agree with, which is the board members shall have completed, and maybe, again, shall But I do believe that training is important, and I've always thought that. I've said that numerous times, that training in this area is critical. And so, though the first half, it's like the word, the shall have demonstrated, I don't know. Again, it's something that the city council, I think, needs to look at when they're looking at these kinds of things. Number 3, in selecting members, the city council shall consider the diversity of the community, and that I think that's a great section. So I don't have any really comments about that, except I think it's really good. There's some, no fewer than instead of not less than, no big deal there. So number 10, which is under membership, talks about the ex officio member may participate in the police community engagement board meetings and deliberations. And they added the term at the invitation and discretion of the board. I'm not sure that's really needed, because when has, Dale ever just spoken out of turn? I mean, we ask for his input. I just don't know why I don't know why that's needed.
I didn't get that intent either. I don't know what the intent would be there.
I wonder if that is just implying if there's some things that this particular board needed training on that maybe the police department already had. I don't think it would be important for, everybody to be involved. So I don't have any problem with at the discretion, because there may be some things that come up that, the board wants to be able to discuss by themselves. And I don't think having it in there says that it has to happen, but it says that, it gives that option if that arises.
I just don't think it's necessary.
I don't think, you have to remember that the boards operate really advising to the city council. And I think this is a precedent, because what this is saying is, okay, if the planning commission, for example, doesn't want the liaison there, the planning commission can decide to take the city liaison out, or any of the boards and commissions can decide to operate without the city liaison. And I don't think that's a good intention or one that would actually work.
I think
Just to
part of the
ask if-
discussion
Sorry,
that would
Angela, go
help
ahead.
if certain of those things exist, then it would probably help in this discussion to be advised of those, and it may save us some time and effort. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't know those things. And members
Yes,
of this
right.
board, so, that would be helpful. I thought we were, I was responding to the thought.
Oh, yeah.
about that and giving my feedback based on the information that I have.
And do
Absolutely.
you
I've seen
think
others
do you think the intent has to do with potentially people feeling intimidated, not necessarily by Chief Curtis, but by a police chief being present, like, what if I can't speak freely? And again, I know I'm thinking about this not in the specific of our police chief, but like going forward or situations in the future that we don't anticipate. Do you think that's what maybe the intention was?
I don't know what the intention was, but because what you're saying is a board can decide to disassociate itself from the city, from the city representation on the board. And, that's saying, I don't think that's going to fly. So.
Yeah, and the whole
what
point
the
is
intention is.
engagement.
Let's fix it.
Yeah, the
Right.
whole point is engagement. That's
Engagement.
exactly
The
right,
point is
Scott.
engagement.
I agree with that.
No, it's not.
I do agree
Not
with
like,
that.
let's go to our corners and talk about each other. It's engagement board.
I agree with that.
I mean, I guess there has to be some commitment we know Chief Curtis is committed, but if somebody came in who was a little apprehensive behind Chief Curtis, you'd want to establish that relationship and that trust. That would just have to exist always. We just have to, as a board, commit ourselves to making sure that relationship stays clean and positive.
Yeah, and I think that with another council liaison, and with the essentially the supervisor of the police chief, which would be the city manager, would have, you know, some say in that as well, that you know, if there seemed to be some animosity that was brewing, I think that, you know, it could be solved without having this language in the ordinance.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
You know, I don't necessarily have an issue with number 11, where aside from a citizen only listening session convened by the board. I don't know if that would ever be utilized, but maybe it will be. And so I don't have an issue with that. The problem is that we've got some sunshine law issues potentially with that. Again, it's the city council, I think, really needs to look at the language change in number 11 pretty closely on setting up, you know, aside from a citizen only listening session. That number 12 talked about reducing the youth liaison to age 16. Honestly, I think that's a great idea, simply because we are having a difficult time finding one that is a senior. So if we look at a junior or a senior, and someone that's driving age, if they're driving age, then they may have, you know, a situation where they have, you know, an incident with a police officer at driving age. So I don't have any issues with that or not at all.
I do think, and I hate to add this, I know I'm not making any sweeping changes, but that conversation with those college students was so powerful too. We might also consider from time to time, or adding one, just a college age student too, because I thought that brought a different perspective, because they're out all the time, where high school students would be out for a limited amount of time.
Yeah, I'm very much for that as well, Cindy.
Yeah.
I think.
I agree.
I agree. It would be, I think, very nice to have someone and very useful to have a student from Webster University.
Because I mean, they're able to articulate really a lot. I mean, I know there are a lot of high school kids too. I'm just saying they can articulate in a way that was very powerful, I thought.
And given our track record with the high school kids, I think we have no one who's ever come to a meeting yet. That you're right, maybe, and we've had good luck with the Webster University student. Cindy, I think you're right on target there.
Appointment, existing members of the board shall have an opportunity to review applications from prospective members and make recommendations to the mayor and city council. I don't know if the word recommendations
Right.
is appropriate, but I do think that it would be, and I think it has been in the past, but I think the application review may be something that is workable, but I'm not sure we want to use the word recommendation.
You know, what's been workable in the past with a lot of boards and commissions is not the review of the application, but the suggestion of people that might be interviewed by council. What you want to do is, you know, take a look. The boards do this themselves frequently, where, you know, you might have the architectural review board that says, you know, we're missing somebody with a background in this residential area, or planning commission might say, you know, we need an engineer. And so what they do is they make those suggestions. And I think the suggestion word or some other word is a really good one, but it is something that the boards sometimes look at themselves and try to figure out where, you know, what kind of linkage would serve the board best. So if we find the appropriate wording for that, I think would be great.
Yeah, I just think recommendation is a little, again, it's one of those words like shall, ensure, recommendation, those kinds of things for at least this particular board. The officers, the organization chairperson shall collaborate with the vice chair. I like that idea. You know, and we've talked about that before. But I think that's a really good addition. The chairperson shall call a minimum of 9 meetings per year on a regularly scheduled day. I think it should be on a regularly scheduled day. I'm not sure that, I'm not sure, right now it says quarterly, at least quarterly. We meet every month, you know? And I think that will continue for a long time. And the only time we don't meet is usually if it is in conflict with a holiday, either the holiday season in December or the holiday season in around Thanksgiving. So that's about the only time we don't. So I mean, I'm not, again, I don't have an issue with it, but I'm not sure it's that specifics. I don't think it needs to be that specific, but that's the board shall keep minutes of its proceeding. So is that a board member or the city employee? I mean, Aaron Clippy takes minutes now, and then we review them and approve them. This sounds like the board shall keep the minutes, not someone else. So
I'm wondering if that was just a way of saying, hold on to, we won't delete them.
Just, all you need to say is that minutes will be kept and available to the public.
yeah, so again, I am not sure it needs to be that, spelled out to that degree. Then under duties, again, the word ensure pops up again. I think it becomes more of instead of an advisory, it becomes more of a policy-making section. So that's the opening paragraph under section 4.122.
So that says our duty is to ensure accountability. Is that how you read it too?
To help the city
Sure
of
that-
Webster Groves and the city's police department ensure that local police systems, culture, and policy are accountable to Webster Groves community. How are we going to do that, Katie?
Yeah, I mean, in the first one, I definitely was in agreement with you. In that one, I don't know if I quibble with it quite as much, but what's another alternative word? Promote?
Yes. Promote.
Yeah, I like promote better.
Promote is much, it's less of a, again, it's more to the charge of the board as an advisory board rather than a policy-making board.
Okay,
But I agree that the rest of it is good. It's just that word ensure really strikes me that how can we do, I want something in the ordinance that we can actually accomplish. And if we can't do that, then I think that we're, you have if you have the responsibility, you also have to have the authority.
right.
And as an advisory board, we really, I don't think have the authority, and I don't know if we should.
Right. So promote maybe is a better option.
That's it. I mean, under communication and transparency, the board shall promote community engagement through specific means of communication, including but not limited to the following. Again, it's up to the city. If they want us to have a website, I don't have an issue with that. No other board does, but we're kind of unique. We think we are, and I think we are. and then convene at least one citizen-only listening session per year. You know, we can certainly have one. But if it doesn't work, if no one participates, you know, do we have one every year when nobody's participating? You know, the language of the ordinance, I think that it needs to give us the ability to do that, but not necessarily, I can't remember. I can't think of the word I want to use.
Mandate.
Mandate it, right?
Yeah, right.
What would that look like? A citizen only, what is that?
Listening, so I don't know. I'm confused by that too. A
I mean, because
citizen.
if it's kind of what we did with the Webster U students, I
Yeah,
think
that's what I'm thinking.
we're kind of moving in that direction, you know, getting groups together to just dialogue. But I guess I'm not really sure if that's what it is. We're kind of heading in that direction to do a
Right.
couple of those.
Again, I'm not sure it needs to be mandated in the ordinance. I think it's something that as a goal, as a group, we come up with a goal to say, you know, it would be, right now we're trying to engage with very specific community groups.
Mhm.
Well, maybe we expand that to say we need to engage with the entire community on one session a year. But again, I'm not sure it needs to be mandated in the ordinance itself. That's it.
So
Any
that
other
kind
thoughts
that-
about?
well, that I guess brings me back to kind of my bigger picture questions, which is, like there's a part of me that feels like, oh, okay, well, let's say the Alliance hadn't done this. Would it be incumbent upon us to go through line by line the ordinance and say, hey, we've done this, some of us for 3 years, some of us for shorter, but like, is this working? What are our recommendations and thoughts? And certainly I think there's a way we could say, we don't like any of these, we're gonna do our own thing. You know what I mean? But then at the same time, I think, okay, well, they've taken the time, they've been great partners and they have gone through this line by line and worked out this language and put in thoughtful recommendations. So it seems like the direction we're going is we're going to take some and we're going to say, no, that's not going to work for us on others. So I guess the first thing I want to say is that seems like a pretty big task that they took on. And so I guess I want to say I'm thankful for that. Because maybe.
Can we send them a thank you or something, or is that against some rule or?
Yeah, I don't know.
I am very pleased that
I
they
mean,
did
because it took a lot of time.
I mean, I am very pleased because it is much easier to edit than it is to create.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate.
And so I very much appreciate the amount of effort it took them to go through this. I totally agree with you, Katie. And again, but it's, you know, I think that I mean, there's nothing formal that we can really do as a board, maybe, I don't know. But I think it's something that we need to think about. And you know, if anyone disagrees with any of my comments, you know, that needs to be in the record so that the city council looks at that and looks at our opinion about this. It's not Kevin's opinion. It should be the PCEB opinion on what we think as a board is a great direction for us to take.
I think when the notes are put together, I think it should reflect some of our dialogue about some of those items that you mentioned, Kevin. And Kevin, it kind of brings me back to your thoughts of a mission, vision, kind of piece, because that's kind of what that is. That's kind of connected to what we were just talking about. I mean, I think it does come back to why are we here? And we have great partnerships with the Alliance. I really appreciate all that they do. and how can we do what we do even better?
But I mean, there's two
Yeah,
sections I didn't mention. I'm sorry, Angela, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I like, Katie's idea mentioned about us kind of self-monitoring and, looking at, everything ourselves based on our experience. I think that's important, and a lot of organizations do that. That's kind of a part of growth since we were new. And I appreciate the Alliance taking the time as well. But I think we have some experience also that we can glean from, and they can only respond also according to what they've seen and experienced as well. So I think we should look at it from that standpoint. Some of the things they suggested was based on just their experience, whether the communication, how that's been, our engagement, some of the things that we've done. But I definitely think we should take a look ourselves and decide there may be some things that we do want to make some adjustments based on what we now know.
Kevin?
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to comment is the positive things too. There's so many things in here that I thought were really good. But a couple of the things is the board shall be responsible for the development and maintenance of an annual plan of action. I think that's a great idea. It holds us accountable, and then the board shall annually report to the chief of police, city council, and city manager a summary of its activities from the preceding year. We kind of have done that, but not in a formal capacity. I'm not so sure it's a bad idea to do it in more of a formal capacity. So I think those are great ideas,
So how about Kevin and Katie and I will get together and kind of start a Google Doc and maybe a thank you letter to the Alliance. I want to keep that relationship positive and fresh and ongoing. So I'd really like to sit and send them something.
Can we also question, I'm sitting on a hospital board, similarly coming up with bylaws, and we're just all commenting on each edition and section in our bylaws via some Google Doc in a way. Would that be good if we kind of signed off and go item by item as each board member and say, oh, I like that, or not, or here's what I think, getting to Kevin's point that we don't want it to be any particular board members' ideas, but we realize we all are signing off as we go as an assignment.
Okay, I'll put that
Is
up.
that
This
an
week.
idea? And can it be created?
Yeah, and all you have to do is comment on line by line. Okay. Let's see, where are we? Survey time. Any other questions or comments about that?
I do think it's important, Cindy, that you did bring up the mission and vision. And I think that that's something that we can maybe put on the next meeting's agenda to actually start that process. I mean, I wrote a mission statement and a vision statement, but I'm not sure that's the right thing we want to do. So again, I think the board needs to decide on how is best to develop this, because there's all kinds of different strategies to actually, to collaborate and as a group develop a statement. Sometimes it's good. Again, it's easier to edit than it is to create. And I can throw it out there if you want, but I want the board to tell me, yes, I want you to do that, or no, we're going to start from scratch.
It might be worth our while to start from scratch, just so it doesn't feel like it's probably, yes, it'll be easier for us to say, oh yeah, but I think we really should go through the formal process. I don't know what other people think.
I agree.
Of putting that together so that it's everybody's voice creating that. Not that Kevin's is bad. It's probably beautifully written. So are we ready to move on to the survey results? I'll attempt to share. I really hate that this computer's not working with me. I'm not feeling quite myself. Right now, we have 47 responses. I got a couple of people who put their emails, so I'm gonna quickly go through that so they are visible. So looking at this first piece of data, just where people are coming from, it looks like most of ours are Rotary, Webster University. Let's see what else we have. Alliance, Eden Seminary, Faith for the Sake of All, First Congregation, North Webster Coalition, Rotary's big. Webster Kirkwood Times, former owner, homeowner, and an NA. Is there any discussion item on just who's responding and what kind of action steps can we take to improve that? Okay. This is sort of the date of the surveys. Looks like we got a few in May, but most of them were in November, December. And I do believe that was when some of you were visiting meetings, active meetings.
And those were group presentations.
Yeah.
Yeah, the individual group meetings. So it was in the Friday page.
Yeah.
To not this past one, but the one before that. I think based on, and we can get that once we get there, we look at where people are getting their information.
Mhm.
And the two biggest ones, we'll get there in a minute, but I think we need to promote it other places. So.
Interesting about the community relationship, large portion are residents. And then there's this, you've got a good chunk there of Webster students, and then none of the above. I thought that was interesting, just who those individuals are. I don't think it's significant, but age groups, we're hitting the over 60 quite a bit. 21 to 40, we got about 10 people there, and 41 to 60, so about the same for both of these, and just a couple for the younger individuals. Ethnicity, I think this is something we really need to work on. It's not a very diverse by race group of respondents, predominantly white, with 4 that are African American, 1 Asian, let's see, what is that? 1 other, 1 Asian, and 1 Hispanic. Gender, non-binary, 1 respondent, predominantly female, but pretty much those identifying as male or female are equal. Lots in the advanced college degree, college graduate, or college degree, advanced degrees, high school equivalent. It's good that we're getting a little bit of diversity here. And what areas would you like to learn more about the Webster Groves Police Department? 6 said what to do if I'm stopped, auto business and safety. The disparity report got quite a few people, so I'm glad that Chief Curtis is providing us with that information. We also had Chief Curtis and some of the officers talk a little bit more about police training, and maybe we can talk about how to get that information out a little better. Identity theft, scams, email and phones. Services provided by the department, and then just a few in these areas, including diversity, equity, and inclusion training. So not a lot of people wanted to know about that. I thought that was interesting. In what forms of communication do you most often likely receive information about the police department? 12 from the website. Is this what you were talking about, Kevin?
Yes, this is what I was talking about.
City of Webster Groves newsletter, Friday pages, there's 8. Webster Kirkwood Times, big, always big in Webster. Social media has got a big one, that's a very interesting one. And then just a couple in these various areas. So what do you think about this? Are we reaching? What can we? I'd like to discuss this a little more. What can we do to reach out a little bit more? We've been hanging at about 40 some odd respondents to the survey, and a lot of work went into that survey. So we really should advocate to get more data placed in. But what kinds of things can we do to get people more involved? I know Katie had one time talked about Webster Kirkwood Times, so that's a hard one because they have to pick and choose the boards. But what are your thoughts out there?
Well, I think they'd produce an article if we provided them something, you know, on the survey. But again, if you notice the respondents, a large majority of the respondents were 60 and older.
Yeah.
And I would, so it didn't surprise me that age group would get most of their information from the Webster Kirkwood Times.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but what social media, even though I have so many issues with it, it's there. And, you know, especially the younger, if we want the younger population to respond to this thing, that's where we need to go. I'm sorry, Mayor. I know you have an issue with that, but that is just the
I have
hard,
no issue with that.
that is just the hard
not-
fact of the matter. That if
I
we
don't-
want to reach the younger population, that's where we need to promote it.
No, and I don't, but I want to say to you at this point, and I know our city manager is listening, that we now have a full-time employee in communications. And so I think at some point, you know, perhaps Dale or Marie and I can talk a little bit about the advice or the help that might come from the professional staff that we now have. But what you're seeing here is what the city has been struggling with for a long time. And that is, and every organization I know struggles with all these various ways in which people get information, and it's so varied now. But no, I think social media is obviously a way to reach a lot of people.
Yep. So,
That'll be great, Mayor. It'll be great to hear. I think it's a wonderful person to hire.
Yeah, and we
and
can,
quite-
we'll ask the city manager about, you know, what sort of abilities or whatever there is that would allow us to coordinate with that particular office.
and at some point, we're going to have to refresh this survey,
Mhm.
you know?
I just
Um,
had a thought. I'm sorry, Kevin.
Go ahead, Angela.
I was just gonna say, I just had a thought, since we're talking about social media, if we're able to identify and able to identify a platform and a place for people to be directed to complete the survey, I wonder if it's possible, Chief Curtis, to share on the social media platforms of police department that, hey, we want your thoughts, share your thoughts. Because I receive, I know there are tweets that go out. I wonder if that's something that would prompt people to want to complete the survey.
Chief Curtis, is that possible?
We have done that, probably not to the extent that we should be doing it, but we have done that. We get, unfortunately, have the same problem. We get very little traffic on our Facebook page.
And the reason I suggested, because I think it's one thing coming from the police department. We're saying to you, hey, we want you all's help, hey, share your thoughts with us. So that was a suggestion that, in my mind, just kind of makes it a little different, and it'll just be another avenue for us to try.
We'll repeat that. I'm not, again, I'm not sure what kind of response we'll get, but we'll certainly give it a shot.
And of course, I've been made painfully aware by my son, who's 28. Facebook is for people my age now, and and so Instagram and other platforms are becoming more popular with the younger people. So I'm sure the communications person can give us more information about that, because the landscape is changing quite a bit. Okay, in your opinion, how are people who are, I think I'm losing, okay. In your opinion, how are people who are Black, African Americans, and other people of color treated as compared to people who are white when stopped by Webster Groves police, by a Webster Groves police officer for an alleged traffic violation and or an alleged vehicle safety violation? Very few think more favorably. Several don't know, which is an interesting piece. Many think the same. And then you got a big chunk of 19 people out of that group are saying less favorably. And remember, that went across some older demographics, so that's important information. I think really having Chief Curtis be a part of this meeting and sharing all the data you can, Chief Curtis. I think that's really important, so that people understand what's going on, that the story is told about what's going on. Any thoughts on that?
Only that I can understand, as you said, the more mature population, but also in the national conversation, I think that it's influenced more by that. As you all saw when I showed the video from the body cameras on stops from people of color, our officers treat them politely. We treat everybody the same. I'm very confident of that. If you look at the data in the vehicle stop reports, you'll see it's almost an equal percentage of people that receive a citation when they're stopped as opposed to the people that get a warning. There's a balance there. So again, it's in the culture. Our officers are trained that way, and I have a sincere confidence that everyone that gets stopped gets treated equitably, and that the officers understand how important that is. But I also understand why someone might have that opinion.
And I think this is part of I think this is part of us looking at the responses and saying we still have work to do. We have a lot of work to do when it comes to the healing that needs to occur within the Black, African American, and people of color in that community. There's work to do.
I agree. Webster Groves police officers have many duties and responsibilities to provide public safety and emergency services. In your opinion, rank the importance of enforcing traffic law violations on a scale of 1 to 6, 1 being least important and 6 being the most important. So 15, it looks like we kind of got right in the middle ground for that. Using the same scale, rank the importance of enforcing vehicle safety requirements or expired licenses, and many people feel that is not as important. But it is part of their job. Use of force, and prohibited chokeholds. This is about awareness. It's interesting, a lot of people are not aware of it. That was surprising, but 16 were. There was a statement put out by the police department about chokeholds, wasn't it? And use of force.
We had a couple of our meetings, we went over our policies,
Okay.
procedures, and at the time of shortly and around the time of the incident in Minnesota,
Yeah,
we highlighted the fact that the 8 pillars that people were concerned about, that we have policies on all of them. One of them being a prohibition on any kind of respiratory restraint for any kind of use of force, unless deadly force is justified.
yeah. I thought I saw that. Okay.
You know, to me, this is one of the most important responses, because what that says is the education that we need to do is absolutely critical. We can't just put out a statement or say it once or twice. I'm just really shocked by this one.
It's
Sorry.
like mind blowing
Yeah, yeah.
with the media attention. Chief Curtis, you think you guys can shoot that, like a link to that back out on your social media? It might be worth it just to.
Yes, we can certainly do that. We'll do that. Like I said, unfortunately, we don't get a lot of traffic on our Facebook page. Detective Bell has a Twitter account, and he does tweet, and I have to admit that those are probably the only tweets that I pay attention to. But there is not a lot of traffic on our social media pages. I'm not quite sure what the answer to that is, and I'm not saying that there isn't any that we should minimize the survey. But when you have 45 respondents out of a population of 23,000 people, you're getting a pretty small sample. So I'm not sure how much people are paying attention to it on a daily basis, specifically on some of these things. So I'm not too surprised about it. The people that would be aware of it are the people who are paying attention, who look at not just our Facebook pages, but have some interest in the PCEB meetings and about the functioning of the police department. But otherwise, I think a lot of people really are not focused on those kind of things, which is a little surprising in today's environment, but I think that's the case.
I think just every little bit, putting a little bit out there might help. I know not a lot of people visit it, but that's shocking.
Yeah, we can do that, and we do have our electronic notification system, and I have put out frequently about the PCEB meetings, encouraging people to attend, or at least to visit virtually, and also put out information there in terms of our policies. Those policies are on the city's website page as well as our Facebook page, and try to direct people there. But we will highlight that and get it out there again, Cindy.
Thank you. On the next one, it seems like most people know if you're going to meet somebody to sell something, it's in a safe place. There's one person that's not very safe, I don't think. Maybe two. Scary. Have you ever participated in the Webster Groves Police Department? And this probably went out right in the middle of COVID. It went out in COVID. So the police academy, Citizens Police Academy, was shut down by then, wasn't it, Dale?
Yes, we were only able to get, I think we had 3 meetings before we had to discontinue it. But I mean, if I would assume that the people had attended those 3 sessions would have said yes to that. But that's another problem that we have. And I understand people are busy and some people don't have an interest in it, but if someone's concerned or has an interest in what the police department does and how we operate, that certainly is one way to get very familiar with it. And again, we're open to suggestions. If people go through it and say, I think that this is not the right way to do it, you should be doing this way, whatever, we're certainly willing to listen to that. But it's a really good way, and it doesn't require too much time. I think Scott and Kevin both attended the 3 sessions before it was discontinued. I think there's a lot of good information there. It informs people who go about how we operate. And by the time that you're done, you have a pretty good idea of at least what the policies and procedures are and why the police do things the way that they do it.
Well, there is an interest. There's 20 people who are ready to go.
Yeah, almost 50% of the respondent. I mean, that's only 20 some people, but yeah, I mean, it was incredibly beneficial. And also there was great engagement between the participants and those that took the time to put together the materials. So.
Okay, 911 calls. It seems like people know how to do it. Well, mark and circle all that apply. Explain that you're calling from a mobile phone and provide the address or location where you're calling from. If you're in transit, inform central dispatch of that fact. Oh, hang on. Okay, if someone is having a mental health crisis, should you call 911? You shouldn't you, Chief Curtis?
I would strongly suggest that you call 911.
Okay.
All right. And I know I've said this before, but I can't say it often enough. 95% of our officers are CIT certified, which means 40 hours of training in mental health issues and being able to direct people in social services. We do not, our objective is not to turn mental health issues into criminal issues. We do everything we can to direct someone to social services and get them the whatever help that they might need, depending on what their problem is. So yes, I definitely would recommend that they call 911.
Chief Curtis, remind me, I remember one of the officers said that you guys have a relationship with behavioral health response, or remind me how that works.
We do, and we have the 24-hour number. We also have a relationship with some of the counselors, so that again, any of those areas, that's where we try and direct people based upon whatever the need or whatever the problem is.
So an officer would show up, but then the officer would help the family contact the behavioral health hotline.
Yes.
Okay.
And if it's depending on the situation, but if something that's extremely serious, if the family it needs some type of help, there are the behavioral health services, but there are also some social services and with through St. Louis County, the state, that the officers are aware of, that we can try and direct them there. So there are several different ways to approach it. And again, that's what we try and do. We don't try and, someone is having, it's whatever the domestic is, if there's some physical confrontation or some fights or whatever, we try not to turn that into a criminal incident. It's not something that the court's going to solve. We try and turn it into a social issue, a mental health issue, and get people help with those problems. That's the way to solve it. That's going through, arresting somebody and going through court is not going to solve those kind of problems.
Oh, if you dial 911 by mistake, which I've done on my phone, you should immediately hang up before speaking to anyone. Many people said no. Chief Curtis, who's right, the yeses or the nos?
The yeses are correct. No, if you mistakenly dial 911, stay on the phone, let them know it was a mistake, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I've done that. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry.
It can happen if you're just punching the numbers and all of a sudden, if you dial 911 first, no matter what you dial after, it's doing the 911.
Yes.
Yeah, we actually learned that during the Citizens Police Academy when we visited the East Central Dispatch Center. And they said under no circumstances should just hang up, because their response is so fast. They don't know if something's going on where maybe the phone got someone is behind you, or someone is telling you to hang up, or someone is telling, so they don't know that it was a mistake. So
If we
they
don't-
may respond.
If someone does hang up without letting the dispatcher know it was a mistake, or doesn't answer, because what they will do is they'll do a callback. On a callback, two officers will respond to that, wherever the call came from.
I've had that happen too. Which of the following is true? This is like a test. In a non-emergency situation, you would call Webster Groves Police, and there's the number. 911 call goes to the Central Dispatch Center to provide you the help you need, or both. And the answer is, Chief Curtis.
Sorry, I had to find my button. In a non-emergency situation, it's best to call the 645-3000 number. We just don't really discourage people that much from calling 911, but the right thing to do is to call it the general number if it's not an emergency.
And 911 does go to central. It's like a central dispatch, isn't it?
Yes, it does. 911 calls get answered first.
Are you aware of the prescription drug disposal is available at the Webster Groves Police Department during normal business hours? Is that still applicable, or is it on hold right now?
It's still applicable, and actually was applicable during COVID, but you couldn't get directly into the lobby. You had to use a direct dial phone, but even during COVID, and now that the lobby is open back up, it's ineffective. If someone has narcotics or drugs that they're not using and need to dispose of, we can accept them.
Okay. And then we've got some comments, but I think we did a few of these. More clear report. Okay, so insist from the police department more timely, more complete, and more clear reports to the public via the Webster Kirkwood Times police reports. I don't think they offer you, it's like a little skinny, you can only report the incidences. It sounds like these people want a little bit more. Dr. Douglas Miller, keep working at improving across the police force every day, designed for additional improvements in policing and communications via collaborations with the community, especially non-white, and a plan for positive interactions between the force and communities as much as feasible, which we're going to talk about tonight. Community policing in an equitable way should be at the forefront of police training. Recruitment needs a wake up and should not be an exclusive good old boys club. I appreciate the sacrifices made by individuals on the police department to protect Webster Groves, but as a citizen, I would like open and direct acknowledgement that systemic racism exists and that the police department needs to make some systemic changes and put an equity lens at the forefront of their decision-making in order to remediate these issues. And I think that's kind of, do you guys think that's kind of where the Alliance was trying to involve a little bit more of a dialogue about race?
Yeah, I think so.
Encourage police officers to be available to talk to local civic, educational, neighborhood, and religious groups, not just the chief, but every chief, you must be really getting out there, but everyone to a reasonable extent. For example, not more than an hour a week, just to share their story and help citizens know how to be less vulnerable and help their neighborhood. Interactions with police at all community events, churches, school events, perhaps without guns on them. I don't know what the rules are on that. Could foster talking to people when not stopping them for violation. Would they have to be off duty to not have their guns on?
Department policy, and for good reason, if you want, I can get into it. The policy on firearms is that if you are in the city of Webster Groves, you're considered to be on duty, whether you're on duty or off duty, and you should be armed.
Okay.
The officers have taken an oath to uphold the laws of the state and of the city. And there are unfortunately certain cases where if they, to do that, they need to be armed.
On duty. Okay. Reduced fear and increased trust of the Webster Groves Police Department has to be earned back from the Black and Brown community over time via helpful acts of service. One way would be to create positive memories for citizens by emphasizing service and help them versus police them. Example, I was pulled over for expired plates in Shrewsbury. Instead of a ticket, the officer got a screwdriver out of his car and put the plates on my car. They were on my back seat. It was so hot that day, and my day wasn't going well. I couldn't believe it. He made my day. I literally cried tears of joy. I will never forget him or his acts of kindness. So instead of handcuffing and overnight jailing the Black mom who hadn't paid her ticket, go with her house where she can get the money, treat her with humanity and respect, ask her how things are going. Maybe she's having major financial challenges and could really use someone to listen to her, say hello to her kids. It could have been an opportunity to build a relationship and get the ticket paid. So she had a positive experience, and she kind of made a suggestion. Do other PCEBs include a city council representative or mayor and the police chief? I asked because my father was arrested and held overnight in jail in Florissant, and the whole experience was simply wrong. The officers were abusive and did some sadistic things. We talked to a lawyer about how to write a formal complaint, but they were basically told that it would not be in our best interest to have any contact with them. And we haven't. So if Florissant had a PCEB, I don't know if they do, and the mayor and police chief were on it, we probably wouldn't feel comfortable engaging with them due to fear of retribution. Therefore, that is the rationale for Webster. Therefore, what is the rationale for Webster having the mayor and the police chief on their PCEB? Anybody?
The rationale is that we are a police community engagement board. I can't speak to what happens in Florissant or to what could be legitimate concerns by someone who has had that experience. As we've said, as I've said many times, I think too many times people conflate what happens in other places with other departments. Obviously, I don't know that situation, but I do know, and I hope that we have proven through experience and through history that the police department here, not just myself, but everyone in the police department, are open to criticism from the community. They're not retributive. If we find something that's wrong, if we see something that's not right, we address it. We don't try and hide it. Sometimes that's to our disadvantage because we are criticized when we publicize something or say that we did something wrong. And again, the reason that the mayor and the police chief are on the board is so that we can interact with board members, because without communication between us and the board members and the public, nothing's going to change. That's the whole purpose, I think, not the whole purpose, but one of the primary purposes of the board. And that is if there's things that need to be changed or things that need to be explained to the community, that we can do that. And the board can't get that explanation without being interactive with the police chief and with the city council.
Well said. I'm going to put a pin in that, and our next meeting we'll pick up with more of those comments. It's getting kind of late. So let us finally talk about the big event in the fall. We're thinking of having an event that includes police officers, the community, having some yard type games, some fun stuff going on, maybe partner with the Parks and Rec. First thing we have to do is kind of get somebody to lead that and get a date on board. Any volunteers? I'll help somebody. How's that?
I'll help you.
Okay, yeah, I'm not doing it by myself, but
I'll help you. You know, what do we want to do? Is there a park particularly that we want to do this in, or do we want to connect this with another event? For example, on October the 5th, there's a big Porch Fest in North Webster. Do you want to hook in with that?
Who's in charge of that? Do we know?
Yeah, there's a guy by the name of Dave Buck, and they're doing music
I know.
on people's front porches,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you know? So it's,
Yeah, he communicates with me on Facebook. I can
Yes.
touch base with him. He communicates with everybody, and but yeah, so what about October 5th? I'll ask him.
And
Any,
the critical thing too is the police department, you know, when they're available.
That's a Tuesday, is that right, Mayor?
No, it's a Sunday, or
Oh, gosh,
Saturday.
I'm
or
on the
Sunday.
wrong.
wrong
Police
year.
department's available 24/7.
Oh, boy, Dale.
So whatever event you choose to have or have participate in, we will do that.
October
know-
5th, October 5th is a Tuesday.
Then I
don't
have the
know if it's
wrong
something
date.
you want to do in conjunction with, for instance, we do the National Night Out, and we have several
Oh.
block parties and neighborhood
Oh.
associations that we go to, but.
When is that, Dale? When is that?
Well, it's 2 dates. And they still will do some in August, but the heat was always a problem. So there's an alternate date in the fall. And I believe I don't know the exact dates, but it is sometime in October. But
Oh, maybe
again, we can do that.
I mean,
and
that might be
cool.
the thing to go with.
Mhm.
And maybe I'll connect with Dave Buck to see if some of the music people can join us.
Sure. And if you want to, connect with Detective Bell.
Okay.
I know he's doing some activities. I don't know if he has anything planned yet. Probably not, because it's a little early, but we can certainly work with him. And again, if that's not something you have to do, but it would
Mhm.
probably be a good thing to do in conjunction with that as well.
Okay.
We can do. I mean,
Are
we
there
can do
any,
both.
are there police officers that could form a band?
Not one that you would want to hear, Scott.
We're trying to make this all one big. Yes, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of envisioning actually something at Ivory Crockett Park. Because, and inviting the whole community there. I don't know how many people will go, but I've never been to Ivory Crockett Park.
What?
Yeah,
You haven't been there?
I haven't been there. I live in far south as you can almost be in Webster. And I've never been to Ivory Crockett Park. I mean, I played softball at the one on Edgar Road, Blackburn. But I mean, I played softball there, but I have had no specific reason or no event to go to Ivory Crockett Park. I mean, I've driven by it,
Mhm.
but I've never attended an event there. And I bet you a lot of people in Webster are the same.
So let's put something together.
So,
Are you jumping on board to help out, Kevin?
well,
You're good, Cindy.
that's why
You can tell you've done this sort of thing before.
You got to grab them.
I
You gotta grab them.
I think that maybe a putting together a committee of 2 or 3 people would,
Mhm.
but I don't know, what that event would look like. And
I mean, it doesn't have to be big and splashy. It's just
no,
people
but-
gathering. You can bring your own picnic, but you can play tug of war with. I got this thing about tug of war with police officers. You can play cornhole with the police officers. I mean, kids love that kind of stuff. Families love that stuff. It becomes very organic. I've been a part of some of that through Webster School District, and we held a fall back to school party there. I don't know if they do it anymore, but
Yes, I was gonna actually attend that and I was out of town that weekend, so.
Yeah,
But that was, I'm thinking of something like that.
yeah, it's
Uh,
just, it's very simple and people just gather and have a good time. I mean, it becomes very old fashioned and that's what we want. We want, it doesn't, the more splashy it becomes, the less we engage with each other. We engage with the thing, but if we have things for us to laugh and have a good time with, then I think that.
Kevin, I'm gonna help
I
you out.
wonder,
I'm gonna help
sorry,
you
Angela.
out and I'll say that I'll help. I'll assist.
Okay, Angela,
Oh,
you're on.
excellent, Angela, thank you.
Now you can still jump in, but
There were two things that I wondered about. One is, I wonder if there's a collaboration we could do with, I don't know who it is that does the art fair for Webster, but like,
Webster
I think,
Arts.
so Webster Arts, maybe we could have a painting thing like that families and police officers could all add to a big mural that we could have there.
Ooh, yeah,
Cause that's an activity. And then I don't know, I know the schools often will have tropical moose come. I don't know if we have any budget to do something like that. But I know snow cones or, ice cream truck or something like that. could
Absolutely,
also
we
be
need
fun.
that.
we need Kona ice.
We need
Yeah.
ice cream or something.
Right.
And I'm on the board of Webster Arts, so I think this is great. It
Okay.
might be a good way to get them integrated in this too. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the
Oh, hold
committee,
on, I have another one.
Okay.
Dwight Bidacoffer has done tons. He was one of the owners and publishers of the Webster Kirkwood Times. I wonder about, this could be getting too elaborate, but he could put together like a spoken word poetry part of it too. It depends on how long, and I don't know if the police officers love that, so maybe, but anyway, it's a thought.
I mean, some of the kids from the high school and from the university can do their spoken word pieces. Those are real big in school.
Yeah, I mean, that's just another thought.
Okay. So I've got Kevin, Angela, and the mayor. All right, we'll call on the rest of you. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah. Cindy's a good delegator, I can tell.
So are we looking, if we do Ivory Crockett Park, I don't know how we do it. We have to reserve it through Parks and Rec, or how does
Yeah.
that work? Okay.
That's
Any
easy.
dates? Any dates in your heads? October is always good. There's something always going on.
It's a good time.
Well,
Yes.
October, usually the weather is, early
Cooler.
October
So
is usually
good.
it's drier. When the later you get into October, the more, I mean, September is the driest month in St. Louis, but it can be hot. Yeah, I mean, September can be pretty warm.
So maybe
So-
like the 16th, the
Yeah.
16th or 17th.
Eric's got his calendar out. He's gonna
Okay.
find the date for us.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I'm a Missouri football season ticket holder, so I've got to find a game that's, because I wasn't able to go at all last year, so I've got to find out when the home games are, so. Katie, you're muted.
Oh,
We should be
okay. I
October.
want to think that Columbus Day weekend might be the 16th and 17th, which might be a time a lot of families go out of town, because I think it's typically
Yeah.
a 3 or 4 day weekend for the
You're right.
school. So I don't think that's a good one to do.
Like, do you think maybe the 9th?
I'm thinking the 9th, maybe.
October 9.
Saturday or Sunday?
That's a Saturday.
Good.
Okay, so I'll,
Columbus Day is on the 11th.
what's
Oh,
on the
Columbus Day
11th?
is the 11th. Okay, then the 16th.
Oh, so
would be
we
good.
go, so 16th is, okay.
Is that Aaron? Thank you.
Yeah, Saturday, October 9th.
Is that a Mizzou game?
Yeah, but that's okay. It's back to back to
Well,
back. So
I think-
I won't go to that one. It's North Texas, so who cares?
Well, you'll be able to go to it. What about the 16th?
No,
It just-
again, it's the 9th is, I mean, is that Columbus Day weekend?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, don't worry about it. I'll just miss it.
who's playing?
Texas A&M. Yeah,
Put a big monitor up for you, Kevin.
so,
Okay,
so,
let's-
yeah, I
let's
mean,
go
the other, I don't know when, end of September, Saturday, September 25th.
That
then
would work
maybe
better
I'll
for me.
try both. We need at least 2 days in case it's September 25th.
September 25th. You said that's better for you, Scott?
Yeah, I'm gone the first 2 weeks in October, so.
So I'll
But-
look initially at September 25th with October 16th as a backup. Okay. And at our next meeting, we'll give an update of this, and let's just devote the rest of the meeting to mission and vision and the rest of the comments in the survey. Is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Okay, I forget if I have to have a motion to, wait.
That's-
To
That's your
quit.
power. It's your power, Cindy. To say we're
Oh,
done.
let me check for
Meeting
remarks from
adjourned.
the visitors. Let me see if anybody have remarks. So, no,
No hands up.
no remarks, no hands up. So with that, enjoy your evening. Enjoy
Thank
the
you
beautiful
so
weather.
much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good
Bye.
group. You guys are a
Bye.
good group. Thank you.
Thank you.